I was sitting on the couch, mindlessly scrolling through my phone when the door to my apartment creaked open. I glanced up just in time to see Zix, my alien roommate, waltz in with her usual wide-eyed enthusiasm, her green skin glowing faintly in the dim light. She had that look again, the kind of excited expression that only meant one thing: trouble. "Hey, I've been doing some research," she said, practically bouncing on her feet. "I think I've finally figured out how to truly bond with humans." I froze, raising an eyebrow. Zix had been living with me for a few months, and while we'd gotten used to each other's quirks, I still wasn't fully prepared for what was coming. Zix had this insatiable curiosity about Earth culture, and the longer she stayed, the more bizarre her attempts at understanding human interaction became. "Bond with humans?" I repeated, trying to keep my voice neutral. What do you mean by that?" Zix's eyes lit up as she plopped down beside me on the couch. "I've been watching your Earth films, the romantic ones. You know, the ones where humans fall in love and do things." I blinked. "Things?" She waved a hand dismissively. "Yes, things. You know, all those romantic rituals. It looks fun. I want to try them with you." I could feel my heart rate picking up. "Wait. You want to try them with me?" "Yes. That's what bonding is, right? I've learned that humans like to spend time together in a very special way. So, I thought we could recreate one of those romantic Earth scenarios. You know, like the movies." I blinked again. "Movies? Like a movie date?" Zix nodded earnestly. "Exactly. But not just any movie date. We need to really immerse ourselves in the experience. I've even got a whole plan." She pulled out a small notebook, flipping through pages filled with diagrams and instructions in alien script. I sighed. This couldn't be good. "Okay, Zix. What's the plan?" Zix grinned. "Well, first, we're going to spend the whole night together. In the bedroom." My eyes widened. "Wait, in the bedroom? You mean like, in my bedroom?" "Yes," she said with a sense of finality. "We need to do the Earth thing where humans spend time alone in intimate settings. I've read that this is essential for bonding. We'll recreate a romantic situation, just like in your Earth films." I shot her a look of utter confusion. "Hold on. Are you saying you want us to, what? Play out a romance movie? Like together?" "Exactly." Zix's eyes sparkled. "It's the only way to truly understand human connection. We must do it properly. I have already set up everything in the bedroom. There's no turning back now." I groaned, rubbing my forehead. "Zix, this is nuts. This isn't how humans bond. I don't even know what you're talking about." "Of course you do," she replied, her voice dripping with naive confidence. "I've read all the best romantic comedies. I know exactly what to do. You'll see. It'll be fun." I tried to explain. "Zix, humans don't." But before I could finish, she stood up, cutting me off with an enthusiastic clap of her hands. "It's decided then. To the bedroom." Zix was practically dragging me out of the living room before I had time to process what was happening. I protested, but she was relentless. "I know you might be a little nervous, but don't worry," she said, practically bouncing with excitement. "I've done my research, and I know how this works. This is just how humans do it. You'll love it." By the time we reached the bedroom, Zix had already begun to transform the space. Candles, way too many candles, were scattered around the room. The bed was covered in what looked like an absurd number of pillows, arranged into some kind of symmetrical pattern. On the floor, there were piles of what I assumed were supposed to be romantic gifts: chocolates, roses, a strange-looking stuffed animal. Everything screamed bad rom-com, and I wasn't sure whether I should be worried or just outright horrified. I turned to her, still trying to make sense of what was going on. Zix, this isn't how humans do anything. Nonsense! Zix beamed, clearly proud of her setup. I've watched so many films. I know exactly how to make this romantic. She gestured toward the bed, her eyes sparkling with far too much excitement for my liking. Now, we start with the Earth dinner. I've prepared something special for us to eat. Before I could protest, she pulled a huge bowl of spaghetti from under the bed. My eyes widened. What the hell is that? It's spaghetti. Classic Earth date food, Zix said proudly. You've got to be kidding me. Spaghetti? In the bedroom? Really? Zix ignored my confusion, already pulling out a jar of marinara sauce. Yes, it's perfect. We'll eat it together. Just like in the movies. Don't worry about the mess. I groaned and sank into the bed, feeling like my life had just been completely derailed by my overly enthusiastic, entirely clueless alien roommate. She handed me a fork and began to twirl spaghetti around hers, flicking sauce everywhere. I could already see this night going off the rails in the worst way possible. Now we'll feed each other, Zix said, her eyes wide with innocence. I froze. What? Here, you try, she insisted, shoving a forkful of spaghetti in my face. Zix, Before I could finish, she was already force-feeding me spaghetti. I couldn't even chew before she shoved another forkful in. This is how it works, she said, nodding proudly. It's very romantic. Romantic? I asked incredulously, trying to push the fork away. This is just a mess. Mess? Zix cocked her head, as if she'd never heard the word before. No. It's authentic. She handed me a napkin. You're supposed to get sauce on your face. It's a part of the ritual. I wasn't sure how much longer I could take this, but it was becoming abundantly clear that I was stuck in some kind of alien-constructed romantic nightmare. Zix continued to giggle, her green skin practically glowing with delight, as if this were the most normal, earth-shattering thing in the world. Now that we've had dinner, Zix said, we move on to the next step. The romantic slow dance. Before I could say anything, she grabbed my hand and pulled me into the center of the room. The candles flickered, and a soft, romantic tune began playing from some device she'd set up, though it sounded more like an alien version of a love song. I wasn't sure how much longer I could stand this. Zix, I said, my voice shaky. This is not how humans do romance. You're getting it all wrong. But it was too late. Zix was already twirling me around the room, like we were starring in some bizarre alien version of Dirty Dancing. I stumbled, trying to keep up with her, but everything about this felt wrong, like a bad dream that I couldn't wake up from. And yet, as ridiculous as it all was, I found myself laughing. Zix was relentless. After the dinner debacle, she insisted we move on to what she called the next phase of the Earth bonding ritual. She handed me a glass of what I assumed was wine, though it tasted more like some kind of carbonated alien juice. I grimaced but didn't want to hurt her feelings, so I downed the glass in one go. Great! Now we do the romantic talk, she said, her eyes wide, completely oblivious to my mounting discomfort. This is where humans pour their hearts out to each other. You start. I froze, unsure how to proceed. What kind of romantic talk are we talking about here? You know, Zix waved her hand, as if it were the simplest thing in the world. You say something sweet, something that makes your heart flutter. It's supposed to be heartfelt, emotional. You humans love this part. I stared at her, trying to process how on earth, no pun intended, she thought this was going to work. I cleared my throat and tried to play along. Oh, okay. Zix, you've been a good roommate, and, I guess you're kind of fun in your own weird way. Zix clapped her hands in delight. See? You're getting it. Now it's my turn. She sat up straighter, her green skin practically glowing under the candlelight. I braced myself for whatever was about to come. "Human," she began, her voice overly dramatic, "your eyes are like twin stars shining in the darkness of my lonely alien world. Your presence makes my heart race like a spaceship at maximum thrust. And your human scent, oh, it is like the aroma of a freshly bloomed flower on my home planet. Every moment with you is like a romantic symphony played by the finest orchestra of the universe." I blinked, trying not to laugh. This was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard in my life. She was literally quoting lines from a bad romance novel. Still, I played along, giving her a polite smile. "That's nice, Six. Really poetic." She beamed, clearly proud of herself. "See? I'm getting better at this. Now we move on to the next part." "What now?" I asked, dreading the answer. "We kiss." I choked on my drink. "What?" Zix raised an eyebrow. "Kiss. It's what humans do when they're in love. It's the next step in bonding. I've studied it. It's natural." I could feel my face turning red. "Zix, I don't think that's how this works. I'm not in love with you." She didn't seem to hear me. "Oh, don't worry. It's just part of the bonding process. We kiss, then we're closer, just like in the movies." She leaned in, her face way too close to mine. I leaned back instinctively, my mind racing as I tried to figure out how to get out of this situation without completely offending her. I didn't want to hurt her feelings, but this was getting out of hand. "Six, Before I could finish, she closed the distance between us and pressed her lips to mine. It was soft, but far too eager, and I could feel her excitement radiating through her. My brain immediately went into panic mode. What the hell was I supposed to do now? I didn't want to kiss her. This was insane. I pulled back quickly, nearly knocking over a candle in the process. "Okay. That's enough, that's enough." Six blinked, looking confused. "What? Was it not the right kind of kiss?" I rubbed my face in frustration. "It's not that, Six. This isn't how humans do it. You can't just force a kiss because you think it's part of the ritual. There's more to it than that." She tilted her head, clearly puzzled. "But I thought that's what you do when you're in love. You kiss. It's how you bond. The movies make it look so easy." "Well, in the movies, there's usually some kind of emotional buildup before the kiss," I said, my voice exasperated. "You don't just throw yourself at someone without any context. It's about consent, Zix." "Consent?" she repeated, sounding like she had just learned a new word. "What's that?" "Consent is when both people agree to something," I explained. "You don't just kiss someone without knowing if they want to. You have to communicate and, well, ask first." Six blinked, processing my words. "So, it's not part of the ritual?" I groaned. "No, Zix. That's not how it works. You can't just kiss someone because you think it's part of the process. You need to actually understand what the other person wants." She nodded slowly, taking it all in. Okay, I get it now. It's more complicated than I thought. But the rest of the ritual? Please don't say the rest of the ritual," I muttered, rubbing my forehead. "Can we just skip ahead to the part where we don't do any more of this romantic stuff?" Zix looked disappointed but nodded. "I'll admit, I'm not fully understanding the Earth process, but I do want to learn. I promise I won't try to kiss you again." "Good," I said, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. "Let's just stick to the basics. Maybe we can watch a movie, like a real romantic comedy." Zix's face lit up. "Oh, a movie! That sounds perfect. Is it part of the ritual?" I sighed, too exhausted to argue. "Sure. Let's watch a movie, Zix. But no more rituals, okay?" "Agreed," she said, practically bouncing with joy. We can bond over popcorn and the human tradition of watching films together. It's a good place to start. I flopped back onto the bed, feeling utterly drained. I wasn't sure whether to laugh or cry at the absurdity of the night. Zix was earnest and enthusiastic, and while it was completely out of hand, I couldn't help but appreciate her desire to understand Earth culture, no matter how misguided it was. As the movie started playing, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was in for many more bizarre bonding moments. And while I wasn't exactly sure how to handle this alien roommate situation, I figured one thing: it was never going to be dull. The next day, I woke up to the sound of a vacuum cleaner whirring in the background. Groggy, I rubbed my eyes and rolled out of bed, heading straight for the living room. I couldn't understand why Zix was so intent on trying to bond, when I hadn't even gotten a full night of sleep. But as I stumbled into the living room, I saw Zix, her green skin glistening slightly in the light, dressed in some sort of odd, skin-tight, shiny material. She looked up from where she was frantically vacuuming the floor, and her face lit up when she saw me. "Good morning, human. I've been preparing breakfast," she announced, as if she'd just won some sort of award. I blinked, rubbing my face. "What is all this, Zix?" She didn't seem to notice my confusion. "I'm getting better at this Earth stuff. I've made pancakes for breakfast. A traditional Earth meal. You said humans love pancakes, right?" I looked down at the floor, where she had clearly gone overboard. There were pancakes, or at least, that's what she seemed to think they were, but they looked wrong. Each one was a bizarre color, some in shades of purple, green, and blue. I thought about the alien juice I had tried the night before, and immediately began questioning if I had made a grave mistake in my attempt to be polite. "Zix," I started cautiously, "what did you do to the pancakes?" She looked down at them with pride. "I followed the recipe I found. I think it's perfect. You should try it." I took a step forward, trying not to show my horror. "Are you sure they're okay?" "Of course. I've infused them with flavor boosters. I figured Earthlings love surprises in their food, right?" She smiled, clearly oblivious to the fact that this was probably going to be a disaster. I hesitated, weighing my options. On the one hand, it was hard to refuse her excitement. On the other, the idea of ingesting these things was horrifying. But at this point, there was no backing out. If I refused, she'd probably get upset, and I really didn't need another lecture about human culture. With a deep breath, I reached for one of the pancakes, picked it up, and took a tiny bite. A wave of unfamiliar flavors assaulted my taste buds, none of them in any way related to what I'd expect from pancakes. The surprise Zix was referring to was the explosion of sweetness mixed with what tasted like hot sauce, mashed potatoes, and something that might have been vinegar. I nearly gagged. Zix was watching me eagerly, waiting for a reaction. I tried to force a smile, swallowing the bite with difficulty. Definitely unique. I've never tasted anything like it." She beamed, clearly overjoyed at my reaction. "You like it? I knew you would. Earth food is so much fun." I wanted to make a run for the bathroom, but instead, I took another bite to keep the peace. "Yeah, it's definitely one of a kind." I thought maybe I could change the subject, steer this in a safer direction. "Zix, have you ever thought about maybe, just maybe, watching a normal movie instead of reenacting Earth romance scenarios?" Zix tilted her head, clearly not understanding. "But we're bonding. Watching movies together is just one step in the process. Don't you want to see how the rom-com turns out?" I sighed. "Zix, the rom-com thing isn't real. You don't need to act like we're in a movie. This is real life." She seemed to pause, thinking it over, but then smiled again, her enthusiasm unwavering. "But movies are real, too. It's where humans learn how to act." I rubbed my face in frustration. Six, movies are not real life. They're entertainment. I took a moment to collect my thoughts before trying to explain further. You can't just act like you're in one. Relationships don't work like that. Six seemed to take a moment, her eyes narrowing as if she was considering the meaning of my words. So, no more pretending to be in a rom-com? No more pretending, I agreed. She smiled widely. Great. But I still think Earth is full of exciting things to learn. So what's next? We should try another bonding exercise. I groaned inwardly but tried to mask it with a smile. Well, there's always normal conversation. How about we start there? Normal conversation, Zix repeated. That sounds perfect. We sat on the couch, each of us clutching a weird pancake, and I did my best to keep things light. So, what's something you want to know about Earth? Or about me? Zix was still staring at me with that intense alien focus. I'm curious, human. Do you have anything embarrassing to share? I blinked, unsure where this was going. Embarrassing? Like what? I mean, I've been learning about humans, she said with an almost mischievous grin. And I know you all have embarrassing things. Like your habits. Or moments when you've messed up. I want to understand. What's the most embarrassing thing that's happened to you? I was taken aback by the question. The most embarrassing thing? I thought about it for a moment and realized, embarrassingly enough, that I had quite a few stories. I hesitated, unsure if I should tell her, but Zix was watching me expectantly. Okay, fine, I sighed. Once, I tried to impress a date by cooking dinner for her, right? But I didn't realize the oven wasn't working properly. So the entire meal burned, and when I opened the oven, a cloud of smoke filled the kitchen. The fire alarm went off. It was chaos. And the worst part? My date just started laughing so hard, I didn't know whether to join in or hide under the table. Zix burst into alien laughter, which was somehow both terrifying and contagious. That sounds amazing. So, humans do things like that too? I nodded sheepishly. Yeah, we do. I'm not perfect. Wow, that's so human, Zix said, eyes wide. You're so imperfect, and that's why Earth is wonderful. You're all so funny and full of surprises. I wasn't sure whether to be insulted or flattered. Yeah, well, we have our moments. Zix took a deep breath, clearly pleased with the direction the conversation had gone. Okay, now I understand. I'll work on being imperfect too. And then, maybe, you'll find me more interesting? I had to fight back a laugh. Zix, you're already interesting. You don't need to try so hard. She smiled like she had just unlocked the greatest secret of the universe. Got it. No more movies, no more perfect romance, just me being me. For the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe a little easier. Maybe we were finally getting somewhere. The following week, things between Zix and me had settled into a strange but tolerable routine. She still wasn't great at understanding Earth's social cues, but at least she was trying to make the effort. I tried to remind myself daily that it wasn't her fault she was a little too enthusiastic about her interpretation of human culture. One evening, I returned from a long day of work, eager to just collapse on the couch and zone out in front of the TV. I didn't expect anything out of the ordinary, but as soon as I walked in, I was hit with the overwhelming scent of something vaguely sweet, yet a little off. Zix? I called, trying to locate her in the apartment. She popped her head out of the kitchen, her grin practically glowing. Human! You're home! She practically bounced over to me. I've been preparing something very special for us tonight. I narrowed my eyes. What did you do this time? She held up a bowl filled with what appeared to be a mass of strange, unidentifiable squishy blobs. It looked like a cross between mashed potatoes and jellyfish tentacles. My stomach churned just looking at it. "It's a traditional Earth dessert," Zix said proudly. "I found it online. It's called jelly fluff." I stared at the blob-like substance. "Jelly fluff?" I repeated skeptically. "Is that even real?" "Of course." She thrust the bowl toward me. "I made it especially for us. You'll love it. It's sweet and—" I cut her off. "Zix, I appreciate the effort, but I don't think I'm ready for jelly fluff just yet." Her expression shifted to one of concern. "You don't like it?" She took a spoonful and stuffed it in her mouth. "I think it's perfect." I watched her chew for a moment, unsure whether to laugh or cringe. "I'm glad you think so, but I don't know if I'm ready for this particular adventure." She pouted. But you said you wanted to bond over Earth culture. This is a bonding experience. Please try it." I sighed, torn between not wanting to hurt her feelings and not wanting to get stuck with another culinary experiment gone wrong. In the end, I did what any sensible human would do. I grabbed a spoon and took a cautious bite. The moment the jelly fluff touched my tongue, I was assaulted with a combination of flavors that made no sense. It was sweet, but the texture was wrong. Too slimy. Too alien. I tried my best to force it down, but it was a struggle. I glanced at Zix, who was staring at me eagerly, waiting for a reaction. "Well?" she asked, her voice filled with anticipation. I swallowed hard, fighting the urge to gag. "It's an experience," I said, trying to be diplomatic. "But, maybe it's a little too unique for me." She looked disappointed but quickly perked up. "That's okay. I'll keep trying until I get it right. The next bonding exercise will be perfect." I smiled weakly, already feeling the weight of whatever was coming next. "Sure, Zix. Whatever you say." As if on cue, she suddenly grabbed my hand. "We should do something else fun tonight. Let's go out and do something romantic. Earthlings love going out on dates, right?" I blinked. "You want to go on a date?" "With me. Not like a date," she clarified. "Just a fun activity. Like bowling. I've read about it, and it sounds like a classic Earth activity." I hesitated. "Bowling? You've never been bowling before." Zix shook her head. "I've never done it, but it seems like something you would love. It's a human tradition. I've seen it in movies." I glanced at her, trying to gauge her sincerity. "Are you sure you want to do this? I mean, bowling is not exactly the most romantic thing in the world." Zix's eyes sparkled. "It's perfect. It's bonding. And it sounds so fun. I bet I'll be good at it." I couldn't help but laugh. "You've never been bowling before, and you think you're going to be good at it?" "Of course," she declared with complete confidence. "I've studied the motion of the bowling ball. I think I'm ready." I decided to go along with it. Honestly, I was too exhausted to argue. At least bowling would be a change of pace. We both got in the car, and after what felt like an eternity, we arrived at the bowling alley. Zix was practically bouncing in excitement as we entered, her eyes wide with curiosity. "This is so much bigger than I expected. It's so shiny." I looked around at the flashing lights, the loud music, and the chaotic energy of the place. "Yeah, it's a bit much, but it's part of the experience." We rented our shoes, and I couldn't help but notice how alien Zix looked in the bowling shoes. She had to adjust to the unfamiliar footwear, tripping once as she tried to move with grace, but she recovered quickly, acting like nothing had happened. "Okay, human," Zix said, her voice full of determination. "Watch and learn. I will show you how Earthlings bowl." She approached the lane with the confidence of a seasoned pro, but as soon as she picked up the ball, I could see the wheels turning in her head. She took a deep breath, lined up the shot, and then, completely forgetting the proper technique, She threw the ball in the air like a frisbee. The ball flew off course and collided with the ceiling, nearly knocking over a set of overhead lights. I stared in shock as the ball ricocheted off the ceiling and bounced down the lane, knocking over a single pin. Zix stared at the single pin that had fallen with awe. "I did it! I'm a bowling champion! I told you I'd be good at it!" I was too dumbfounded to respond immediately. "Zix, I think you missed the point. You're supposed to roll the ball, not launch it into orbit." Zix looked at me, confused. "But the movies made it look like you throw the ball. They didn't show you how to do it properly." I couldn't help but laugh, the absurdity of it all hitting me in waves. Okay. Let me show you how it's done." I took the ball, lined it up, and then rolled it smoothly down the lane, knocking down a full set of pins. I turned to Zix, trying not to gloat. "See? That's how you bowl." She clapped her hands. "That was amazing! How do you humans make everything look so easy?" "Well," I said, "it's called practice. And maybe not trying to send the ball into outer space next time." Zix smiled brightly. "I'll practice. And next time, I'll beat you." I laughed. "Let's just focus on not causing any more damage to the bowling alley, all right?" After a couple more rounds, we managed to wrap things up, and we headed back home, both of us in stitches from laughing at Zix's attempts at bowling. I was exhausted, but there was something strangely fulfilling about spending time with her, despite the chaos. As we walked back into the apartment, Zix looked at me, her face softening. "You know, human, I've learned a lot today. I think I finally understand the importance of bonding. It's about enjoying the moments, even if they're a little weird." I smiled, relieved. "Yeah, exactly. It's not about doing things perfectly. It's about being with each other." Zix grinned. "And maybe we can try bowling again. Next time, I'll be better." I chuckled. "I'm sure you will, Zix. I'm sure you will,